Hello, welcome to Algebra 2. This is Chapter 6, Section 6. Here we have page 1 of these notes. We have a little box that's meant to help us understand the steps for solving radical equations. Not a lot here, but you might be interested in having these steps nearby, at least as you get started. Step 1, we need to begin by isolating. So we need to isolate the radical on one side of the equation if necessary. Basically, we're talking about adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing, just so that you have the square root or other root alone. You'll see what we're talking about as we move forward. Step 2 is raise each side of the equation to the same power to eliminate the radical and obtain a linear, quadratic, or other polynomial equation. The idea here is get rid of the radical, get rid of the square root or the third root or whatever, so that it becomes a type of problem you've seen before. And then finally, it says solve the polynomial equation using techniques you learned in previous chapters. I got to tell you, I think it's kind of cheap of them to tell you, oh, you're going to solve radical equations, and step 3 is solve the equation. What they meant is steps 1 and 2 are meant to change it. So the first 2 steps are meant to change the type of equation from a radical equation, something with a root in it, into an equation with a polynomial. And then finally, you actually do something similar to things you've seen before. That's the idea. So let's look at example 1 here, where we have to solve this radical equation. Square root of x plus 6 equals 3. And the first step is apparently write the original equation, which I guess sounds superfluous to me because it was already there, but whatever. Then we need to square each side to eliminate the radical. So I'm going to rewrite square root x plus 6 equals 3. But then we're going to square each side. And because the benefit of that is that makes it go from square root x plus 6 into just x plus 6. And then that equals 3 squared, which is 9. Then we're ready to move because you subtract 6 from each side and you get x equals 3. And then it says the solution is 3. Boom. And then it has this thing that says check this in the original equation, and I want to underline this because I know a lot of us have gotten by in life with not checking the work, and you're going to see very soon that that's absolutely mandatory now, because you will get bad answers. That is not your fault, but you'll get answers that are not correct, and you'll have to check in order to verify that. That doesn't happen in this first example, so we don't have to worry about it. I see I also forgot to fill in the 6 in the line, but that's not the interesting thing here. So let's look at that checkpoint here, where on number 1 here, it's a cube root of x minus 5 plus 1 equals negative 1. So our first step, and this is what that step 1 was in the box above, is to isolate that cube root. So we're going to begin doing that by subtracting 1 from both sides, and it gives us cube root x minus 5 equals negative 2. Once we've isolated the radical, now we can raise it to the appropriate power. In the problem above, in example 1, we squared both sides, but that's because it was square root. So here we're going to cube both sides, and that gives us plain x minus 5 equals negative 8. And that's something we can work with pretty quickly. You've got to add 5 to both sides. Boom. X equals negative 3. Boom. That's it. Now, I want to talk about how to check it just really fast because it is going to be truly mandatory going forward. So I want to make sure that we're on the same page because it would be unfortunate to have you confused about this. So first of all, we're talking about cube root of, and then we think it's negative 3 minus 5. The root was too long. Plus 1 equals -1. And one thing that people may have done when you were originally learning to solve equations is like a question mark above the equal sign. If you think that's just a ridiculous sign that's insulting, then I'm sorry to insult you, but you don't need the question mark. But the idea is like, hey, is that really -1? Who knows? Hey, let's find out. Okay. So cube root of this is really -8 plus 1 equals, and maybe you put the maybe there. -1, and the cube root of -8, and again, this is why I wanted to show this, because I want to help you get a chance to check your own understanding for roots. Cube root of -8 is -2, because cube roots deal nicely with negative numbers. If it starts with a negative number, it ends negative. Everybody's happy. So it's -2 plus 1 equals -1, and you could start by going, I don't know, but then you're like, yes, I do know, because -2 plus 1 is -1. So yay. So that means that -3 is a happy-go-lucky, positive, well, I guess it's negative, but accurate answer. All right, this is the end of page 1. Thank you for watching.